Hello and welcome to the big picture. The latest efforts by the UPA government to hasten the reform process and encourage investments to boost the economy includes a proposal to set up a single window agency, the National Investment Board, under the Prime Minister's chairmanship. The board suggested by the Finance Minister P. Chidambaram is aimed at clearing infrastructure and other investment proposals of over rupees 1,000 crore, as it is claimed by the Finance Ministry that a maze of clearances from various ministries and especially the environment clearances hold up such proposals. However, the proposal has met with very strong resistance from none other than the Environment and Forest Ministry, with its Minister Jayanti Natarajan writing a strong letter to the Prime Minister yesterday opposing the formation of such a board. The Minister has pointed out that the delays in infrastructure projects is not because of environment and forest clearances, as Finance Minister makes it out to be, but in neglect of implementation of cleared projects, be it in coal, steel, power or irrigation projects. She has also objected to the proposed National Investment Board on the grounds that it will weaken the regulatory systems and also may go against a Supreme Court order. This conflict between the need to reform the system to give a fillip to major investments, a major concern of the Prime Minister, and the need of the day to balance the environmental concerns is highlighted in the latest letter written by Jayanti Natarajan. So, what's the way ahead? How will the balance be found? How will this conflict between the ministries be resolved? Will the proposal to set up a National Investment Board be carried through in the light of opposition to it? We will discuss all this today with Union Minister for Tribal Affairs and Panchayati, Kishore Chandra, Rajeev Kumar, Secretary General of FICCI, Professor C.K.Varshney, former Dean, School of Environment Sciences, JNU, and Priya Ranjan, Managing Editor, Financial Chronicle. Welcome to all of you. Let me first go to Mr. Kishore Chandra. Mr. Kishore Chandra, your colleague in the ministry, she has written this very strong letter expressing serious concerns about the setting up of this National Investment Board, the proposal to set up a National Investment Board. She has raised issues like, the rules of transaction business itself will be changed. She has also spoken about how this will, have far-reaching effect on the ministries and as well as on the governance itself. How do you see her, these concerns which she has made? Do you also share those concerns?
Well, Girish, I have not actually gone through the actual proposals. I have only read in the newspapers about the letter that Jayanti Natarajan Prime Minister.
I have a copy of the letter with me, Mr.
Yes. But you see, as far as I am concerned, there are two issues which concern me. These are the two issues which relate to my ministries.
Yes.
One is nothing to do specifically with NIB proposals, but it's related to any other project as well.
Yes.
Basically, you see, as far as I am concerned, there has to be total compliance of the Forest Right Act.
Right.
And all PESA provisions will have to be fully complied with before any land in the scheduled areas or in the forested areas are used for non-forest purposes or for divested for any other use.
Right.
These are my basic concerns. I had written about this to the Minister for Environment Forestry even a year ago, soon after I had become Minister. And I don't think there's any change in my position at present.
Actually, in fact, she seems to have taken your concerns into note also when she is writing this letter, because she talks about the forest dwellers, the protection of forest dwellers, ensuring the forests and wildlife, all these things she has made a point in her letter. She also talks about how this kind of a proposal, which can have major and far-reaching effects on the governance itself, has not even been discussed at the Committee of Secretaries level, and a proposal is being taken directly to the Cabinet. Do you have any concerns on that?
Well, I am happy that she's expressed the concerns as far as the tribals are concerned. As far as the Forest Right Act is concerned, it's a flagship program of the UPA government.
Right.
Actually, this was enacted to correct the historical injustice to settle the pre-existing rights of forest dwellers and tribals in our country. This should have been done almost 100 years ago. And I think she's been quite right in expressing concerns on their behalf, if she has, as you've quoted from her letter.
Yes. See, I'm asking you this because recently you have also taken this extraordinary step of cancelling the 7 bauxite mining licenses in your own constituency in Andhra Pradesh, Araku and the Araku Valley. You know, these are the kind of problems which may crop up in future if the National Investment Board clears this proposal. One of the concerns expressed by Jayanti Natarajan is that the Environment Ministry may just be overlooked and this National Investment Board may act as a super body. And you know, but here is a case where you have taken this initiative to cancel the licenses. These kind of conflicts you expect to happen in the future with the formation of this board?
Well, my direction to cancel the licenses is, you see, because these arrangements were made by the then state government of Andhra Pradesh with private companies in Schedule 5 areas,
right,
in violation of constitutional provisions as enshrined in Schedule 5 of the Constitution.
Right.
And they also violate the Land Transfer Regulation Act of Andhra Pradesh, which was enacted in 1959.
Right.
So these were things which were done illegally and unconstitutionally. Well, I do believe that the NIB is not going to be set up to do things which are unconstitutional and illegal.
Okay.
So I think that this situation which happened in Andhra Pradesh in my constituency, for which I have issued a direction, it cannot be related to another issue which may be taken up in a different context.
Okay. Let me bring in Mr. Rajeev Kumar. Mr. Rajeev Kumar, this proposal of the government to set up a National Investment Board, how do you see this? Is this something which the industry has been looking for quite some time? Is this something which will be welcomed by the industry?
I must start off, Girish, by saying that I have not read the actual proposal which was being considered by the cabinet.
Right.
But of course I have read reports on it, and so I am
it has not yet come up before the cabinet.
Rather conversant with it.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm rather conversant with it. Now, so let me just start off with a little background, which is that I don't think anybody in the industry or the government, I presume, is going to favor or encourage measures or steps which violate the constitution, or which take away the right of the tribals, or which degrade or denigrate our forest wealth. That cannot be, and that is not the intention or the desire of any one of people involved in the industry, or for that matter any reasonable sections of the society. The problem that we have been facing with the issue is that this country needs to have rapid progress in its manufacturing sector and its allied sectors which supply it inputs, which are the mine and the mineral sectors.
Right.
Without that, you will not get any rise in growth rates, and with that, you will not be able to generate the employment that is necessary. And that I don't think can be denied by anybody at all. Right. The problem that we have been facing is that in successive projects, there have been interministerial, interagency, and quite often intergovernmental coordination problems that have resulted in these projects being extraordinarily delayed and therefore retarding the growth of the economy. Therefore, the National Investment Board, I don't think, is meant to override or take away the functions or the rights of any particular ministry, but instead it is supposed to be an overseeing body which will ensure that the constraints on project implementation, wherever they exist, in whichever ministry, not just in the Ministry of Environment and Forests, are identified and a collective decision taken after due deliberation and discussion on how to remove those constraints. And that can only be good for the industry and economic growth in this country, and let me repeat, for generating the necessary employment, which is going to create a huge problem, because you've got to find employment for 10 million new entrants to the workforce. And that is what we should be, that that should be keeping us awake at night.
Mr. Rajeev Kumar, Mr. Rajeev Kumar, today I'm sure you're aware of the letter which Mr. Jayanti Natarajan has written today. In that she makes a very interesting point. She says that, this argument that, there has been delays because of lack of environmental clearances is not well founded, because she gives pretty interesting statistics. She points out that 210,000 megawatts of thermal power capacity, for that environmental clearances have been given in 5 years till August 2011, and none of those projects, or rather most of those projects, have not taken off. She says that the problem is not of environmental clearances, the problem is of commissioning these projects and implementation of these projects, because the delay is taking place in implementation. In fact, that means that she's actually pointing a finger at the industry.
Yes, I do not know which project she has in mind or she's referring to, and we do not even know whether these implementational problems, having been cleared by environment, are held up somewhere else because of land acquisition, because of sometimes forest clearance, because the state government may not have found the coordination for other reasons. So this is why I said very specifically that I don't think the NIB is there to solve environmental problems alone. The idea behind that, in my view, from what I've heard and discussed, is to identify constraints wherever they are. And if these constraints are because of the laggard nature of industrial activity by the industrialists, the NIB would be able to point that out as well.
Okay.
But you see, what defies logic is for the private investor to have invested some money and then not be in a hurry to complete these projects. Exactly. That just defies logic. That just means
that defies logic, but it seems to have happened. Anyway, let me come to Priya Das. Priya, you have gone through this letter of, there seems to be a conflict between the Environment Ministry, which seems to be gripped by a fear that, it will become irrelevant if this National Investment Board comes up. Is this fear a logical or a rational fear?
Girish,
or a concern?
Girish, there are a couple of very fundamental issues involved in this. The number one issue is the constitutional scheme of things.
Yes.
Now, under our constitutional scheme of things, the government, which is the executive, its foremost, in fact, the sole function is to implement the law, execute the law.
Yes.
Legislation makes the law, judiciary interprets it, and the government or the executive executes the law.
Right.
And so the very rationale of existence of various ministries and departments of the governments, that flows out of which law is being implemented or executed by which department and which ministry. And the transactions of business rules define that. Now, that is our given system of governance. Now, that cannot be wished away. Here we are talking about fundamental re-engineering of government when we talk about a National Investment Board, in the form that I believe it is being proposed. So, Mr. Kishore Chandra Dev has a point. He's got the Tribal Rights Act to implement, to execute. So he is responsible to Parliament.
Exactly.
And accountable to Parliament in execution of that law. Yes. Similarly, Mrs. Jayanti Natarajan is also responsible for executing several laws under the Environment and Forest.
In fact, she raises this point. Who is going to be accountable to the Parliament?
And not only that, as the Ministry of Environment and Forest, they not only they not only do the function of an executive, they also do a certain quasi-judicial functions.
Right.
Now that again cannot be wished away. There are tribunals, there are public hearing provisions and things like that. But what I understand is, and not to forget the fact that we are a federal polity, and the states have their own rights in terms of clearing projects. They too have to clear a lot of things. Now, Mrs. Natarajan mentions about the power projects that environment clearance have been received, but haven't made much progress because they could be stuck with land, which is a state subject, or they could be stuck with even financial closure, which is banks not lending money, you know, that is delay in that. So all kinds of issues would arise because multi-agency.
No, but
and this is not the first time.
This National Investment Board, the proposal to have it is exactly to overcome this problem.
What I am saying
overcome this problem.
This is nothing but so-called single window clearance, which we have heard for the 60 years at least.
Right.
You know, from Nehru's time, single window clearance has been there. Now, what I understand is this NIB proposal is not necessarily to clear projects. The NIB proposal is to give an answer to the investor, whether it is a yes or it is a no, in a reasonable time frame, so that he knows whether, you know, the largest foreign investment project, direct FDI project in this country is POSCO, which is hanging fire for half a dozen years or more, in fact.
Anyway, this is not just about FDI.
Case. No, it is not about FDI. It is about all projects, including foreign investment projects, which is over 1,000 crore in the infrastructure sector, that is roads, railways, airport, you know, you name all. And also I understand in the core sectors, which is steel and
power,
refineries.
Mines,
yes.
All this.
So all that is there. Now, here, what is being attempted is a fundamental re-engineering of government. I am happy that such a proposal is being discussed. I am also happy that such a debate is taking place within the government.
Right.
But one would like to see this debate to be conclusive and debate, you know, that the government not pulling it in different directions and putting this very proposal under in a limbo. I understand that 2.5 lakh crore worth of investment proposals are pending. So this proposal itself will not get into a limbo.
Let me get Professor Varshney in. Professor Varshney, the issue is about the environment clearances and who takes responsibility for it. Jayanti Natarajan has pointed out that NIB can't be a substitute for the expertise which the Environment Ministry has, and to go through that process. So what is your take on this?
Girish, I must tell you that I have not actually seen the proposal of NIB.
Yes.
But whatever I have read through the paper, I must say that any large investment is no substitute to the environmental care and concern.
That's exactly the point she makes also.
And the one more important point that we must remember, larger the investment, the greater is the implication for the environment, which means it requires even more closer study and scrutiny.
Right.
And for that, a multidisciplinary team is required, because environment is polydimensional and multidimensional and interrelated issue, in which right from social issues to the technical issues of air pollution, water pollution, etc., biodiversity all come. We must also remember in the background that Indian Constitution is one which explicitly has the directive principles and reminds our duty towards the environment.
Right.
And there are not many constitutions in the world which really make such a explicit mention for protecting and care of the environment and the wildlife and the animals and the rivers and so on. In this context, I will say that the major concern of the industry is that whether it is a hiccup on their own side or because of the business proposal or because of many other reasons, they always shove it to the environment.
Yes.
And I am fully aware of the fact, being party to this process of environmental clearance, that many power plant projects have been cleared, which even today have not seen the light of the day.
Exactly, and
I can tell you that the environment clearance process is a very, very technical exercise which the NIB may not be able to do. And we must also remember NIV is another step that we have put into the whole process. If its function is only to do coordination, and if the coordination cannot be set right, I think NIV will not be able to achieve this.
Okay.
So the important point is
Yes.
that wherever the hiccups are, we should really identify them, and these are the land acquisition things. For example, there are, you know and I know and everybody knows that gas is not available, power plant is sanctioned, place is identified, everything is clear, but power plant cannot be installed because the gas is not there. Now, these are the delays which are more important rather than this. Whether it is a forest direct investment or whether it is indigenous investment of a local entrepreneur, the issue is the same.
Absolutely.
It affects the environment.
Absolutely. Let me get Mr. Kishore Chandra Dev back into this.
Can I just come in, Girish?
Yes, Rajeev. Yes, Rajeev.
I just wanted to say, I think there's a clear misunderstanding. NIB is not meant to usurp the functions and powers of the Ministry of Environment and Forests.
This is the concern.
It will certainly not do any project clearance.
Rajeev, this is the concern.
It will not do environment clearance. It is simply... No, but it's very clear.
This is the concern expressed by Jayanti Natarajan.
They are saying that the NIB... No, but I think that concern may be, the Honourable Minister's concern may be a bit exaggerated, because the NIB is meant to expedite the process, not substitute or usurp the process.
Okay.
That is the idea.
Okay.
And as the gentleman, Professor Varshney just said, if the power plants have not come on stream, it could be because of other reasons.
Absolutely.
Linkages with coal, availability of gas, land acquisition. So it's not just environment. Now the question is... The question is,
Rajeev.
there is no harm in infrastructure. Look, Girish, there is such a strong infrastructure deficit in this economy which affects the poor people. If there is a mechanism being set up to expedite the clearance of these projects, I can't see what is wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong. I'm sure there's nothing wrong, but my question to you is, you've just pointed out that, you know, the cleared projects, environmentally cleared projects, may get stuck at various stages at the state government level and all. Do you think that the proposed National Investment Board will be able to find a solution to this problem? Or is it something which will just say that, okay, this is the problem and leave it at that?
No, I think they will direct the concerned ministry, and they will be charged with finding the means to address the constraint.
Okay.
If it is gas supply, they will have to do that step. If it is labor acquisition, they will do that.
Okay, well, let me get Mr. Kishore Chandra Dev in. Mr. Kishore Chandra Dev, this proposal to have a National Investment Board, do you think this is a good idea in the context of, you know, creating better investment climate in this country, and also in the context of, you know, expediting the proposals, expediting the investments in this country?
You see, as I had mentioned earlier, Girish, I have not yet gone through the proposals with regard to the NIB.
Obviously, because it is not
what exactly the functions are.
Mr. Dev, I don't think your secretary...
Cabinet note has not yet been.
Okay. Cabinet note is not ready.
Let me just...
1 second, sir. Yes, Mr.
I have not got it with me yet.
Okay.
I have not gone through it, so you see, therefore I am not in a position to discuss that. But you see, I would only like to mention that when you are talking of creating 10 million jobs,
Yes.
you must remember the fact that there are 100 million people, forest dwellers and scheduled tribes living in the forest areas of this country.
Right.
And when you talk of mines and minerals,
Right.
I think we should also understand the fact that most of mines and minerals are in forested areas.
Right.
So there are nearly 100 million people who are eking out a livelihood from the forest resources, and the community resources, and the individual resources. You see, they are stakeholders, and their interests just cannot be wished away.
Right.
So therefore, I have no issues with NIB, formation of the NIB.
Right.
As long as the existing laws of the land are respected and adhered to, and there's total compliance with the Forest Right Act and with the provisions of PESA, that's Panchayati scheduled areas.
But Mr. Dev,
This is my only as far as I am concerned, these are the issues which I am concerned about.
Mr. Kishore Chandra Dev, Priya Ranjan Das raised a very significant point. He said that this proposal is actually trying to re-engineer the governance itself. Is that something which is a welcome thing, or do you think the care needs to be taken not to disturb the balance?
Well, I don't know exactly, I have not gone into the details.
Right.
So I should understand what this process of re-engineering is all about before I am able to comment on that.
Okay. Yes, Professor Varshney.
Yeah, the point that I'm trying to make is that we are worried about the infrastructure, and I totally share this concern. But we must understand that what type of infrastructure and what infrastructure are we talking? The natural infrastructure is the primary infrastructure. If we have really...
You mean the nature's infrastructure?
Right. It is on the basis of this infrastructure the rest of the infrastructure works.
Yes.
So if the primary infrastructure is disturbed and destroyed, or I should say manipulated, then I think that any infrastructure, any long-term growth and any sustainable growth cannot be conceived. This is number one. Number two, we all are for expediting the project clearance,
right,
whether it is Ministry of Environment or whether they go any part of the government. And I think any sensible person looks to it that everything must move, but at the same time, not at the expense of the environment and people's convenience and their own livelihood.
Absolutely, that's what.
So I think that the NIB, if they have a mechanism by which this coordination can be expedited, this coordination has to be placed before what is it and how it is going to be. And if it's going to give a direction, which means they want to really overrule what is required to be done.
That is exactly the concern which Jaji Natarajan. Yes, Priya Ranjan.
You see, the problem that we have in this country is that the government has bloated. And the transaction of business rules, which is there, you know, Mr. Dev's ministry is a relatively new ministry which has come into being.
Yes.
Now, fundamental questions as to whether you require a ministry of tribal affairs,
yes,
that has to be addressed. You know, all over the world, it is not to, the government's objectives of ensuring a clean and protected environment for the posterity, and and making that cost-benefit analysis between a ton of aluminium and clean air, that cannot be whisked away. Nobody is talking about not evaluating, making assessment of any project, its environmental impact, or any other impact for that matter. Similar clearances about land, about water, about fuel connections, all kinds of things would be required. Now, the question is that in this country, we seems to have got into a system of governance of bureaucracy, red tapeism, and unnecessary delay because of multiple authorities and trying to execute multiple things. That is what needs to be addressed.
Okay.
When I mean by saying that it's an attempt at re-engineering government, and I welcome this attempt. And this is a very important debate that is taking place within the government. And
let me get Rajeev Kumar. Rajeev, last words to you. So do you agree that it is an attempt to re-engineer the way we govern, the way transactions of business takes place in the government, and do you see it as a positive step which can have some far-reaching implications without, as both Professor Varshney and Mr. Kishore Chandra Dev pointed out, causing damage to the nature?
Absolutely. First, I welcome this step. Two, I think this will go a long way in clearing up the infrastructure deficit. Three, of course, none of us want that the natural infrastructure be disturbed, but all over the world, across history, the countries and societies have been able to achieve and balance this trade-off.
Okay.
And nonetheless, fourth, it cannot be denied that today there are lakhs of crores of projects which are stuck in this country, and we need to clear them to give ourselves a fair chance at speeding up economic growth and generating employment.
Okay, thank you.
And the NIB will go forward in achieving that.
Okay, thanks. I think we have come to the end of the show. But it is interesting that a minister of the union government has raised these concerns. But as Rajeev is pointing out, these re-engineering and reforms in the administrative structure itself is very important and necessary. But how effectively it will be done by taking into concern the concerns expressed by somebody like Jayanti Natarajan and also Mr. Kishore Chandradev will have to be noted. Thanks to all my guests. Thank you, Mr. Kishore Chandradev, Rajeev Kumar, Professor Varshney, and Priya Ranjan Dash. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue on the big picture, same time tomorrow.